All right, so let's go ahead and get started on our tutorial this morning. Let's break down the pieces. So we're gonna need our cake pop dough. We're gonna need some tan modeling chocolate for both the wings and the outline of his face. We're gonna need white modeling chocolate and black modeling chocolate, and his nose is a starburst, a mini starburst. So let's go ahead and start out with our cake pop dough. I have what's, excuse me, I have what's left of some chai pound cake. Jack and I were eating it yesterday.
Yummy.
It was pretty good. So yesterday Jack was here to do some recording for some Halloween pops that will be out on the website that you can take classes. We'll get them up shortly. All right, so we're gonna do two. We always do two because there's a mantra in my house that two is one is none. So if something happens, I have an extra backup. So we got two going on here. Hi, Polly. Welcome. Thanks for joining. Hi, Courtney. All right. So let's go ahead and roll our dough. My dough is just a little bit on the chilled side this morning. I totally forgot to let it lay out last night, so it's cold. So I'm just gonna smush it a little bit, try to bring it more to my temperature of my hands. I don't want cold dough. I want room temperature, so the extra little smushing that I'm doing is just to try to bring it to room temperature. I am menopausal, so my hands are always hot. All right, so it's starting to warm up now. Okay, so now I'm just gonna push and squeeze, and I'm gonna roll it, and you'll feel it when it comes together. I'm not really looking for a nice round ball because we're gonna shape it into the owl, but I do want to make sure that there's no air pockets in there. Okay, and then I'm gonna roll it backwards just to smooth it out a bit. I'm gonna take my ball and I'm gonna roll it like a barrel. So I'm just gonna put it between my fingers and just roll it. So now I have this oblong barrel. Now I'm gonna put my fingers close to the bottom. I wanna start creating that narrower bottom part of his body, but I want a big head. I don't know if you can see the difference there. And then I'm just gonna make sure the top is smooth. Make sure there's no cracks in my cake dough. Nice and rounded. Okay, and now I'm going to take my ball tool. This is my big ball tool. I want indentations where I'm gonna put his eyes. I want that sunken owl eye look. So I'm just making big, deep indentations. And then where the dough connected with my ball tool, I want to smooth that out for the bridge of his nose. I want that smoothed. The rest of the eye doesn't have to. And then I just want to roll it one more time just to make sure I've got all my fingerprints off of it. Like so. Then I'm going to take my lollipop stick. I've already dipped it about 1.25 inches in white chocolate. I don't know if you can see that, but I've already dipped it. That creates the barrier between my paper lollipop stick and my cake pop dough. I want to just dip just 1/4 inch in the bottom. I'm going to put my lollipop stick in. I'm going to turn it clockwise until I feel it catch. And then I'm going to turn it back 1/4 turn to lock that in. And all I did was, see, I squeezed it too hard, so I created that crack. All right, and then I'm just gonna wipe the excess off the bottom. All right, so while we're gonna let the chocolate firm up on the inside of our cake pop dough, we're gonna make all the elements that we need. So the first thing we're gonna do is, let's start with his eyes. So we have the white of his eye. We also have the pupil. So we're gonna use these two. This is a coupler for the inside of your piping bag for those of you guys that use piping bags, and they're couplers and icing tips. So this is just the inside. I use it because there's no crack in it, and it's a nice solid circle, and it's nice and big. And I'm also going to use the number 12 Wilton's piping tip to make the pupil. So let's go ahead and do that. I already have black modeling chocolate. If you have never made modeling chocolate before, please go back into the Just Less Creations group. Back, I think, in March, and I did a Basics 101 modeling chocolate tutorial. You're welcome to go watch that. So I'm using modeling chocolate. I'm going to cut out, I have 2 cake pops that I'm working on, so I need 4 eyes. So I'm just going to cut out 4 of them. And I always do 1 extra one just in case. Sometimes they go rolling. Sometimes I squish them. All right, so I'm done with that one. So I'm going to pull out the white. I'm going to use the coupler, and we'll make the whites of the eyes. Again, I'm going to do 6 of them. Oops. Okay. All right, let me move this stuff out of the way. All right, let's bring our 6 white ones here. All right, so I've got a paintbrush. When we're doing chocolate to chocolate and there's not a lot of weight, I use water. Water acts as a binder, and I'm just going to put little dabs of water on here. Now I want a large portion of the whites to be shown on the outside of his eyes. So I'm gonna, where's my, oh, I had it right there in my hand. I'm gonna take my pupils and I'm gonna put them to the inside of the whites, just like that. Just leaving a little white on the inside. All right, so now we'll just shift these back to the top and out of the way for a moment. All right, I think right now I'm going to dip these so my chocolate starts to harden for the moment. So we'll come back to the wing in just a minute. I want to go ahead and dip this so that I actually have time to let that chocolate set up before we put the elements on. Drop my cake dough into the chocolate. I'm going to pull it towards me and spin it at a 45 just until it touches itself. Now I can tell you, this has not sat long enough, and Jack, I don't know if you can zoom in. I love doing these live tutorials because whatever happens, happens, and I'm going to show you how to fix it on the fly. So right now, I have this cake pop that has already separated from the dough. I don't know if you can see that crack right there. Here's my chocolate, here's the dough, and this dark spot right here has already cracked. Now, there's one of 2 things that you can do. All right, this is what I'm going to do. Right now, if you were at home, I would say pull this stick out, fill it full of chocolate, and put a brand new stick down in, and let it sit upside down like this until that chocolate hardens. However, I'm going to dip it anyway, and we'll see what happens, just so you guys can have a view, and that's why I make the extra one right here. So we're going to do this one on the fly. It has a 50-50 shot of falling off the cake pop stick. So, and that's what, and actually, it's got more of that. Let's see if I can do it, just because I like a challenge. All right, because it's already cracked, I'm just going to pour it, and I want it right there at that stick. And I definitely want in those eyes. And I'm going to hold it upwards at a 45 so that all that chocolate drains down. I'm going to let gravity take its effect, and I'm gently, just gently going to tap it. All right, so at this point, I'm going to wipe off all of that excess chocolate. Like so. Now I do have a couple air bubbles that I need to get out. We don't want those. Air bubbles, when your chocolate cools, will create a little tiny hole that opens up the air, outside air, to your cake pop dough. When that happens, you allow the opportunity for bacteria to start growing on your cake pop dough, which will drastically decrease the shelf life of your cake pop and could create an issue for whoever's going to eat it. You don't want them getting sick. So you must get rid of those air bubbles. I'm going to do just a quick shake for those spots that I just cleared of the air bubbles, and we're just going to let it sit aside. There we go. We salvaged that one. We'll see how long that one lasts. All right, let's do the other one. We're just going to drop it in, spin it at a 45. That's the way we're supposed to do them. And now I can just tap it off. All right, let's go ahead and make our little guy's wings. All right, so here I have some tan modeling chocolate. I made it so that it's just a little bit darker than his body color. I just want to soften it up. It's a little chilly in my kitchen this morning. All right, so I'm going to just take it, roll it into a ball. I'm going to flatten it out a little bit. I'm going to put it through my KitchenAid pasta maker. Now, because my hands are a little hot, so I don't know if you can see this on the camera, but because my hands are hot, it's actually starting to melt. It's real shiny. So here I'll use this cornstarch. Cornstarch will actually take out the moisture just a little bit. So I'm just going to put a little bit on there because I'm going to put it through my metal pasta maker, and I don't want chocolate to stick to the rollers. All right, so here's my KitchenAid, my pasta maker. I'm just going to roll it through there, flatten it out nice and even. All right, so I have this little Wilton flour former. It came in a kit from years and years ago. I bet probably back in late 90s or 2000. It's dating myself. But anyway, we're going to use the tiny rose petal leaf to make his wings. So we're going to use, we need 4 of those. So we'll cut out 6. We're always need to make sure we have extra, just in case. All right, there's our 6. Now, this thing is so old, it leaves that little bit of chocolate at the base. I want to firm that up. So I'm just taking my fingers and just smoothing that out on all of them. Okay, guys, now I'm going to take the other end of my ball tool. Here is a veining tool. And all I'm going to do is I want the point to stay. That's the point of his wing that will attach to the body, but I want to make feathers. So I'm just going to pull down on the chocolate, putting a little pressure once it hits the back side of it, the down side of it. So I'm just pulling, just pulling. Okay, so now we have these pieces done. Now we're just going to take the outline. It's the same color as the wing. So in here I have this little tiny circle. It's going to make a rope, and it's just the little one, and I'm just going to roll out some. See, I could have spent the last 10 minutes modeling chocolate that small, but instead there was 2 seconds and I already have it. So they're like 10 or 12 bucks off of Amazon. I would definitely recommend it. All right, so I'm just going to guess that I need about 5 inches. We'll cut off the excess. So we have 2 for our owls. All right, so now we have all the components. Okay, so to make his beak, we've got these mini starbursts. You can use modeling chocolate if you want. I just like to change it up a little bit. So I'm going to take a mini starburst, and I'm going to take my little knife here, and I'm going to cut diagonal. So I'm making a triangle. And then I'm going to cut that one in half again because we only need a little beak. Oops, that one there, my knife moved on me. Darn, we'll have to eat that one. All right, so we're going to cut this. So now I have these little triangles. All right, the point that was the center, I want to try to push down. I don't want that to be quite the point. What did I call that amazing tool? It's called a clay extruder. All right, all I'm doing is rolling down. This is the original. It has a point there. And I'm rolling that point and flattening it. And then from one side, I'm going to squeeze and pull it down to a point. I want that to be a point. And the other part, I'm going to flatten it to make the bridge or the top of his nose or his beak. So I'm just rolling and I'm just softening the edges a little bit. That's all I'm doing. So the top part, I smoothed. It still has the bulb where the point would have been, but then I elongated the bottom part. And this is also a clay tool. I love clay tools for working with modeling chocolate and fondant. This is also just, it's just another easy tool to pick up. I think I got this one at Michael's. I'm just going to use it to create a hole for his nostrils. Just like that. And now we have a beak. So we have eyes, we have a beak, we have this bead of modeling chocolate to put around. But before we do any of that stuff, we're just going to add some dimension. And by adding dimension, we're just going to use some petal dust. I've got a mushroom petal dust, and I've got a spiced pumpkin luster dust, and I just put them here in my brand new tray. All right, so I've got both the mushroom and the spiced pumpkin in my tray. I've already mixed it up. So I'm just looking to add some highlight, and I definitely want that dimension behind his eyes, because when you add that dimension, his eyes just really pop. So he's already got the indent, you've already got shadow in there, so all I'm doing is enhancing that shadow. I'm just gonna go in a circle. And then I'm going towards the outside. I want it to overflow. We're going to do that on the other side. Andrea asks, what's the difference between a petal dust and a luster dust? A petal dust is a matte finish. A luster dust has a shine. Does that help? It depends on what you're using them for. And I always mix them anyway. I'm looking for a specific color, and one color never meets what I want, and I'm always mixing them. So it really, for this particular project, it wouldn't matter if they're both matte or both shiny. You're welcome. All right, so now all I did was frame where his face would be. I just went around the outside like that, and I just framed it, and I just kind of took my brush and made it blended. This is a dry brush, nothing but the powder, and I'm just looking to blend, because it's not the highlight, it's used to help highlight what I'm going to put on top of it, if that makes sense. All right, so make sure you blow off the excess. And if you've touched it with your fingers, when you go to put those white eyes on, ask me how I know this, your eyes will turn out brown. So make sure that you don't have it on your fingers before you do this. All right, so now we're going to take our eyes and we're going to sink them down in those eye holes. I'm just going to use a little bit of water down in the bottom and just put in those eye sockets. Now I'm going to take my eyes. Now we have, we're going to put them in so that the whites are towards the outside of his eye sockets. Where's my, oh, there it is. We're just going to drop them in like so. I'm going to use my pinky because it doesn't have any luster dust on. I'm going to sink it down in the hole. Be very careful that you do not push very hard on this at all, because you will crack the chocolate around the base. If that happens, if it happens, I will show you how to fix it. If you need to, just lay it on the table and then push down, like let go and push down, because you're not putting the pressure on the stick, if it'll crack. And I'm just pushing that down on the outside of your chocolate, you actually have a lip on both sides, top and bottom. I'm just trying to remove that lip and soften it just a little bit. So now we have big buggy eyes, and we're going to take a little bit of chocolate and we're going to add our nose. Now, this is not modeling chocolate, it's a starburst, so water is not going to hold it very well. So I'm just going to take just a little bit of chocolate on my knife, right at the bridge of his nose, put a little chocolate, and then I'm going to put my nose on the chocolate. And that becomes my glue. And there we go. All right, next thing that we're going to do is we're going to put the border around his face, and I want it to almost be like the top of a heart. I want it to come to a point. So I'm just going to use some water and outline where I want to go. Okay, any questions? All right, I'm going to take the top and I'm going to start it at the point. Now this is going to be tricky. I'm going to use my thumb to hold this end, and I'm just going to wrap it around the face. And I'm going to manipulate that rolled modeling chocolate all the way around, like so. And then I'm going to take the top of it and put it over top of where I started, like so. And I'm just going to push this down a little bit of pressure to hold that in place where the water bead is. And I'm going to take my knife and I'm going to cut at an angle that top piece over top of the bottom piece so that it looks like it blends together, just like that. Then I'm going to take the back end of my knife and I'm going to push down on the top piece so that it blends into the bottom piece, because it's modeling chocolate and you can do that. Now it also pushed out some here, so it's not coming to a point. I'm going to clip that little bit off, like so. And there we have that. Squeeze it together and make sure it stays together. And now I'm just going to look and I'm just going to level up his, make sure it's nice and rounded on the bottom. And it's on there firm. And then the only thing we have to do is put his little wings on. So again, we're lightweight chocolate. We're going to put it on here, so all we need is water. So right about the bottom of his eye, on the outside, up against the rolled chocolate, I'm just going to put a little bit of water. I'm going to take a wing, and I'm going to put the wing right at the bottom, if I go level with the bottom of the eye, and I'm going to put my wing up against it and only push down here at the tip and make sure the rolled chocolate is up against it. And I'm going to leave this flared out just like that. Now I'm going to do the same on this side. Right level with the eye on the outside. A little bit of water. Right here. Make sure it's kind of level going across there before you push it down on there. I pushed it down too far. And there we go. So here is our, oh, there's one last thing that I want to do yet. Where did I put it? Okay, so we have to, our owl looks amazing at the moment, but he's ornery, so we need to put that little twinkle in his eye. Just never know what he's up to. So I've got some white poppy paint. Let's move my pieces out of the way here. White poppy paint, little tiny paintbrush, and I'm just going to put a twinkle in his eye, and he'll come alive. There we go. Okay, so I don't know if you can see those little talons. Make sure your hands are clean. Mine are just sticky from chocolate and water. But you can put talons on there. That'll also, up level your cake pop. I look forward to seeing you guys again in 2 weeks. 2 weeks will be, it'll probably still be another Halloween tutorial because that's right before Halloween. So I'll come up with something for that. In the meantime, be creative, think outside of the box, and I know you can do this. I believe in you, and I believe that God sent you here for a purpose. So have an amazing day. We'll see you guys later.